All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Well, actually, I'm going to do screen 2. And there we go. Everybody see the client portal login here? Perfect. Yeah, before I dive into anything here, I just want to, so I sent out the agenda there, so we're going to basically follow that. Just keep everything organized, but as everybody knows, we've been, trying to figure a bunch of stuff out, what we can do, where's the biggest impact that we can make for Finger Lakes wineries in particular. And we figured it out back before we had a few more people come on, and it was service, and then we got distracted, and then we, did our little trip again here and refocused, again, back on service. The biggest help that we can be is to be a service organization specifically for wineries in the Finger Lakes, because everybody has trouble with technology. And to that end, that's why we've focused in pretty heavily here in the last few months on our service desk and really making sure this is fine-tuned, making sure that all of the systems work, and then in particular, our SLA, or our promise to you, in terms of how can we be the most efficient, and what we're promising to you guys. The main thing there is the first and highest level of that is that we're promising that we'll have at least a response to you, a human response, not just like a system response, within an hour. And then on top of that, we haven't quite defined how long it'll take for, low priority, medium priority, or high priority tickets. But we're going to get to that level as well. So we can accurately promise, and if you log a critical ticket, we're going to do it ASAP. But then, high versus medium versus low, that sort of thing. And then building on top of that, we have the various different ways that you guys are going to report to us. And this is going to be the most helpful for me, because as everybody knows, over the years, people text me, call me, they'll text Sam, call Sam, email me. However, we've finally gotten everything more or less directed to the system. So obviously, most of you know you can email support. It's at grapesquad.com. It's going to be now support at wineryconnect.com. You can still use both, but we met with Diana Little over at Boundary Breaks yesterday. She said it was kind of confusing to have both the Grape Squad and Winery Connect, having people email Winery Connect and Grape Squad. So we have the support at wineryconnect.com email that will email the system, but you can still use the Grape Squad one if you'd prefer that. We have our phone system, which reaches out to both Sam and I, but then if it goes to voicemail, it will log tickets for us with the notation of the ticket. And then lastly, we have the client portal here, which is a nice to have. So obviously you can still call me and text me. You can still call and text Sam. The only thing we ask is that if you can remember, we'll try and remember, but if you remember, just email the ticket as well. So that way it's in the system and everybody has access to it. But then the client portal is just a very nice tool here to check in on your tickets, check in on your employees' tickets, a lot of stuff that I'm going to get into once I actually log in. But before I actually log in and go into there, is there any questions before I do that?
Nope.
All right. Good. So I'll go ahead and log in. So this is I'm using Ventosa's logo, but this will be your logo here if you haven't logged into the client portal yet. And you'll have your stuff here. So we're just using their logo, for example.
Yeah, actually, let me pause for just a minute.
Sure.
I wanted to make sure we stop and have any not just questions but discussion around this idea of service and the service desk and what we're doing here. In particular, I wanted to make sure and note, Keelan mentioned it as far as emailing and issues, but the thing and this is where, just to spur conversation, the type of thing we hadn't thought of is Keelan's on the road and somebody calls him directly because it's an urgent issue. He's not necessarily going to remember to put that in the system when he gets to where he's going. So that's, that situation in particular would be real helpful if you can email the issue after you've talked with Keelan. In general, getting everything in the system and then communicating through the system on the issues is something that we're trying to focus in on more ourselves. But with the right, and this we're still learning. This is part of what we sort of realized when we were talking to Diana yesterday, is the boundaries of that. So and what I sort of came to then was, anything that needs to be done needs to be in the system. So anything that's a task, anything that we want to make sure it is followed through on, but that shouldn't limit any interaction. So as Keelan said, you can always feel free to email us directly and text us and call us. And because a big part of what we realized is we humans come first. We need to be a human support organization. So I just wanted to take another second and see if there was any discussion around that. Has anybody seen anything in support organizations that they really like and would like us to emulate, or vice versa? Anything that support organizations do badly that we should avoid? Anything like that? All right. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on it. I just wanted to make sure if anybody's got any, particularly because we've got a pretty, as Keelan said earlier, efficient agenda here. So if anybody has questions at any point, feel free to jump in. But just wanted to make those couple points and yeah.
Yeah, or after the fact, if you remember something, please email us. We're always looking for feedback and suggestions and whatever to help better our support of you guys. So yeah, anything you can think of would be great. But with that said, yeah, I'll go ahead and log in here. So once you're logged in here, this is going to be your dashboard. I'm going to cover the menu navigation towards the end. But the main things here, so announcements, this is something we're going to start doing once we get more efficient at the system. This will be things like, hey, Revel has a new version 2.76, and that's got the the non-cash adjustment feature that they're going to introduce for mitigating some of the credit card fees. And then scrolling down here, going down here, we have all the widgets. These are high-level widgets, but they're very informative. Little welcome message. You can search any ticket, closed or otherwise, here by the title, the description, or the ticket number. Knowledge base, which I'll cover in a minute. You can search knowledge base by all words or any matching words, and you can search all the articles. This ticket widget here is nice, shows you your open tickets, your new tickets, the ones created by you, but also ones that where you're the contact on. So this is going to be, if somebody in your organization logs a ticket and they list you as a contact on the ticket, it will show up in your portal as well. And so that's a nice feature to have. The open tickets widget is, again, pretty nice, gives you just a quick, the title of the ticket and its status. You can click on any of these and it will bring you in, it'll bring up a sub window. And then can you see the sub window here? Good. And that'll bring you into the place where you can actually add notes. So you can edit, add notes. You can read the description on the ticket, add attachments, search the knowledge base in here. So again, once we flesh out the knowledge base, you'll have knowledge base articles you can click on. Again, something I'll cover in a minute was the installed products and so on. But this is a nice quick way to kind of navigate, get to your tickets, and make sure that everything's moving forward. Drop just down below that. This will show you, this is a nice little graph chart here, show you tickets created and completed by month. You can see all tickets. So this is all organization tickets. And then if you click on my, this is just your tickets. So that's again a nice way to just kind of cross-check, see what's being done and what hasn't been done and the efficiency of it. And then this is, we haven't gotten too much into tickets by request type, but this will eventually break out into various different request types: hardware requests, software requests, general service requests, whatever they are. And again, all, which is all company, and then my, which is yours. And then the last widget, which is pretty helpful, when we do get a hardware order in or some sort of order in, as we've been getting better and better about creating quotes and getting those off to you guys, those will show up here as well. And then again, that'll show you your quotes versus your organization's quotes, and so on. And I know Sam has a few things to add on the quotes end, so I'll let him take that.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to build on that a little bit and say, this is, we're trying to create system, actually automate our internal processes like we haven't done, plumber not taking care of their own pipes, and also formalize the business processes around this. And this is one area in particular I wanted to, which is new orders. So whether it's for a piece of hardware or for a service or anything, we're going to be not just tracking this in here, but it's also integrated, just so everybody is aware. So when particularly, for instance, a piece of equipment is ordered, you'll see a quote in here. If we're going through the quote process, you can also verbally say, we just need this equipment. But then what we'll do is we'll order the equipment in Autotask. We'll create a purchase order, and that will create a post-sale ticket. And that ticket is going to follow that order right through absolute completion, and whatever that means based on the order. So if it's a piece of equipment, the next step is Autotask is going to push the invoice over to QuickBooks. QuickBooks picks, then Biller Genie picks the invoice up out of QuickBooks and sends it to you. You can pay it, and then the invoice in QuickBooks is automatically marked as closed. So that part is just great. As I touched on a second ago, us automating our internal stuff so we can focus more on serving you. But the more important piece is that post-sale ticket will stay open, and we're going to keep on. So if it's an equipment order, we're going to be adding the tracking number to that when we get it. We'll be adding, when the equipment comes in, we're going to try and make sure that, we've communicated with you, or if we're not on site, to test it, make sure it's good, and, just completely finish that process. And so that, and processes in general, I guess this is sort of a place I wanted to focus on and say, all of our processes, any feedback in terms of how we can get them more efficient, more complete, and make sure that people are satisfied. That's what I wanted to just underline here.
Perfect. So as I say, the last thing I'll get into is the top level menu navigation. So obviously you have your home button here. Moving over, we have another way that you can log tickets and search for tickets. So this is a focused ticket section. I'm not going to actually dive in here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Create new tickets, see your tickets, see open tickets, recently completed ones. I am muting that. And going over from there, projects. So this is going to be something that we will visit eventually. So this would be something like we have a new, building we're putting up. We need wire run. We need a new point of sale, stuff like that. Like bigger projects that wouldn't be suited for just a ticket. They would be a project, and then you can have steps in the project. And then once the project's completed, we can have approvals and sign off and all that good stuff, which we've never had before. It's always just been I show up and I do some work, and then it's like, hey, we think it's done, and then, oh no, that wasn't done or whatever. So really fine tuning that process. Installed products, as I said, this is going to be something we dig into as we fine tune. So this will be your products. So you'll be able to come in here and see what services you're using, what hardware you have, even all that stuff. So you'll be able to see what you're actually using, and then match it to your accounts, and say, okay, we're being billed for this. This is what WineryConnect sees as our bundle of products. Let's make sure it matches, or even just to see what you have and as a place to see it.
I'll jump in real quick there actually and add one more layer, which is that this tool that we're using here is a product called Autotask, and it's actually owned by a local company, Datto, that isn't so local anymore. They just got acquired, but this is really designed for MSPs like us. We're a managed service provider. Our focus, as we've really come to it, is serving wineries specifically with commerce IT. And so most of that's virtual with the service desk, this kind of thing. But there's capability in here to do things that any general MSP would do. So it's including what's called remote management and monitoring. So the Autotask product has built into it not just the idea to keep track of what products you've got, what physical hardware, but to actually allow us to, remote into your hardware and maintain it from our end. Now, those are premium features that we haven't got into yet, but as we focus more in on being a service organization, particularly a commerce IT, and then a bit more broadly an IT organization, this is really going to be helpful.
For sure. And then, so yeah, so Thank you for that. Definitely good to expand on that. And then also, so then moving over the knowledge base, as I mentioned before, we haven't really fleshed this out too much. We don't have anything in there yet, but this will be things that this will be, quick how-tos and stuff like that. So when somebody logs a ticket, you'll be able to click on there and it's like, oh, how do I, reset the cache on an iPad, or how do I restart the card readers? Simple things like that that we need quick access to. That we wouldn't want documentation around, which is leading me to the next part, which is the documentation manager. Some of you already kind of know about this, but for those who don't, Autotask has a nice feature where we can build a repository of documentation, and it all lives here. There's a few benefits to that, but before I get into those, I'll just kind of describe the hierarchy of documentation. So we have all documents, which are available to everybody. It's taking a little while to load here. We then have our internal documents, so you can see, GS procedures. We can have our Grape Squad procedures live in here. So this is going to be used for things like training new Grape Squad people, and just so you guys can see that we are refining our processes and building our own documentation. We then have the last level, which is going to be company specific. So in here, we have the ability to put together documentation and how-tos on stuff that is specific to your businesses. So, whether it's, Hazlitt has, they do the Grape Fest. So we can put together a whole document on, from start to finish, how to set up, a point of sale for Grape Fest, and to do that. And then, so on and so forth. It is taking a little while to load here, so I might not be able to dig into it, but basically that's what they are, is just these documents that we can put together that your staff will have access to. So if you have somebody new coming on, they'll be able to come in here, print off the document, and take it. We can also store your documentation in here. So if you have processes that you want a repository for, we can store them in here under your company file, or you can pull them out of here and store them in your personal repository. But it's just so you know that we are building documentation. And one last thing I'll say on that is Diana mentioned yesterday, actually, which is good. If you guys have things that you haven't developed, this is another use of the Grape Squad. If you need a document put together, a step-by-step document, 1, 2, 3, 4, check this, and then it's finished, send it to us, or make a request to us, and we'll build up the documentation and store it in here and send it off to you. So that way everybody has it and everybody has, oh, there we go, and it loaded, is on the same page. And I'll just dig into one as an example. So this is, again, for Ventosa. They got a new card reader in. They needed instructions on how to pair it, via Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth. And this is when I said, okay, well, this is actually helpful for everybody. So I sent them a copy of this, but then I put it in the all documents folder. So this is just, step by step. I'll probably go in here and clean this up, make it numbered so it's a little easier. But yeah, so that's kind of the reason for the documentation here.
Yeah, I'll build on that real quick and say this is really what, as we sort of realized this functionality was in here, and in particular, the way, as Keelan mentioned, we can have our internal documentation, we can have documentation for everybody, or specific customer documentation. Realize this, I think, is sort of close to the core of this, because what we want to do is not just be a break-fix organization where we want to be your IT department. And a big part of that is growing organizationally processes and procedures, and getting, so we're doing our internal documentation, but our internal processes and procedures, but by the same token, we want to, make sure your lives are getting easier and easier. And so nothing new in here. I just wanted to double underscore that this is, I think, the a big part of what we want to do as your IT department.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing I'll touch on is the reporting wizard. So we have a number of widgets and such that can show you active tickets and all that good stuff. But this is going to be, this will be a more deeper report of tickets over time. So you can see it will run a query based on the time range, and it'll show you the column data that you want to see. I'm going to shorten it just so it doesn't take a while to load, but I'm actually going to do it a little bit longer of a date range than I did last time. So we'll generate this report, and once it generates, I think it's doing its thing maybe. Once it generates, what you'll see is a list of tickets. There we go. So you'll see the ticket number, the service provider resource, the status, all of the details on a ticket that happened over time, with timestamps, all of the notes, case numbers that we logged, with Revel. So this is, in examples where we have to get Revel on the line. This is the case number with Revel. So you'll see all of these details in here. So this will be a full, deep dive detail of the tickets logged over that period of time. The benefit of this is obviously you can see the details if there's anything that goes wrong or whatever. I don't foresee that happening, but if we ever need to reopen a ticket and hey, you guys said you did this and whatever, obviously we'll do whatever, to make sure, but this will be, a good cross check. But the other thing is also like, to see, how many tickets you have, logged in the past X amount of days or months or whatever, and evaluate, say, okay, hey, WineryConnect, we've only logged, one ticket in the past 3 months. Let's talk about that, or, whatever. So this is a nice little thing. And again, you can export this, you can print this, but just a nice to have. Again, everything is still pretty well laid out on the dashboard there for the widgets, but this is just an additional feature that's a nice to have. But with that, that's basically all that I wanted to cover. I'm going to close out of this. We'll go back to the dashboard just to kind of have a look at it one more time. But yeah, I mean, if there are any other questions, discussions that anybody wants to have around what we covered today.
I'll jump in one more time and just make one more point. So as Keelan said, we did come to this in 2019 at EWE 2020. We realized, Grape Squad first, and we came up with our little IT alien, which you'll see if you go to our website. We've got it is now our mascot. And if you look really closely, Fred Wickham came up with a little button that's on its chest, which says "It came from outer space." But and we're going to be launching a campaign on that next week, try and just really simply grow human support for human beings in the wine industry. And so any help with that is really appreciated. But that having been said, I want to be clear too that the original this other stuff we've tried over the years, we're going to continue on, and as we specifically meaning me. So I'm a software guy. I'm going to continue to work on getting the integrations better and better and looking at ways we can really help with new technology. The problem over the years has been that's all been confused with trying to get ourselves, oriented to really where our center of gravity is and get that right, and Bruce Murray was the one that said to me, I think most poignantly, do one thing right. So the one thing we do right is support. And but we're still doing other things, so just wanted to make sure that was clear. And with that, I guess as Keelan said, any discussion, any thoughts about any of this?
Go to chat.
Quick question about if creating tickets. I love all of this. I have gotten I hope a little better at using this as the way to contact you guys than in the past. Question would be like, Keelan and Sam both, what's the best way then? Is it best to reach out through this portal to set up appointment times with you guys as well? Or is it still okay to kind of text? I mean, I know if it's an emergency, you guys are wonderful about being available. But if I want to say like, hey, Keelan, we want to set up a date, is it best to do it through this portal? Like for you to come and help me maybe set up, we were talking about putting that
Sure.
front facing POS, the customer
Right.
thing. Should we do that through the portal?
It's your preference, whether you do it through the portal or you send us an email, or you text us directly, we're going to get the request. So it's your preference. I'd say probably emailing support@WineryConnect would be the best.
Okay.
That way both Sam and I get a notification, it creates a ticket. In the example where, and obviously the client portal being the next best, but the text or the call is still good It's just that doesn't create a ticket is the only thing.
Gotcha.
So that's just the hole there. So one of us, either you or I,
So
would have
an
to
email
create the
to
ticket.
WineryConnect will go create a ticket automatically.
Correct. Yeah. So we
Okay.
originally had only support@grapesquad.com
Yeah.
pointing to the system. We've recently made support@wineryconnect.com the primary email for that. Support@grapesquad.com still does work,
Yeah, I heard
but
that, yeah.
WineryConnect, just that way it's simplified, so you don't have to have multiple different email addresses to contact us. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll I think say pretty much the same thing, but underscore it a little more. Email is definitely the best because that's I think the easiest for you to do and the easiest for things to get into the system immediately. You get a response email with the issue number and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
The portal, I haven't actually tried creating tickets in the portal. That's certainly an option. I would think that's not usually going to be the easiest, but the main thing for the portal is for you to be able to view the issues, and then also, as we say, the documentation, the knowledge base, and we'll hopefully be building other things into the report. We'll have a video repository and as part of the documentation, this kind of thing. This actually brings up something I am interested in, if anybody has any opinions. One of the things we looked at was supporting text of issues. And I looked into it, and there's a service called ClickSend that'll take the texts and forward them on to an email that would get into the system. It looked like it was going to be a chunk of work to do that, and also it wasn't going to get us what we really wanted without a ton of work, which would be to say the system would know the phone number of the person who was texting, because the key thing we want to do is not only have the issue in the system, but have it associated with your company and your account. And that's where it recognizes your email address and automatically associates everything. So my question is, we've sort of, Keelan and I just talked yesterday and decided, you know what, texting issues, might be a little bit easier for some people, but it's going to be a lot more work for us to get that set up, and just doesn't seem like it's worth the effort. So I don't know if anybody has any opinions on that.
No, my only thought would be if in the case of an emergency, there are times where, like in the middle of a busy Saturday, if something's not working, are you guys okay if I still shoot a quick text and say,
Oh,
help,
absolutely.
rescue
Yeah.
me?
No, yeah, in those cases, it's whatever the most efficient path is. So obviously, emailing a ticket is not going to be the most efficient path. So yeah, definitely, ring us both and make sure we're there. So yeah, definitely don't feel free to do that. Don't feel like you can't. As Sam mentioned before, the system is really for tracking the work that needs to be done, but communication is still left open. Everybody can reach out to us however is they're most comfortable with, and we'll get back to you. So
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm glad this came up, because I can say the email I think is best and easiest for everybody. The next one, the next best, if is the Grape Squad hotline, because then that's tied to automatic call distribution. Whoever's on the Grape Squad it'll ring their phone, but you can definitely still, email our personal emails directly, call our personal phones, text our personal phones. And in most cases, the Grape Squad person should be the one that would then log the issue. So my comment earlier about if Keelan's driving, it'd be nice to just to make sure the thing's in the system, to email it after. But that's sort of the exception. Like typically, if we're at our desk or whatever, and you can text us or email us directly, and it would be our job to put that in the system, because we know you're busy, and it's whatever works best for you.
perfect. All right. We are 2 minutes over time. I don't know if there's anybody has anything else, or Sam has more to say.
Yeah, well, Debbie has a question, which is adding users. I don't think there is an ability for you to add users. I think that would be a case where you'd log an issue and say, email support and ask us to add a user.
I'll take a look, because I thought I had seen that earlier, but yeah, I'll double confirm. I was fairly certain, but maybe I'm wrong. Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, okay. Well, if there is no other questions, I think everybody's free to go. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be, we're going to try, or not going to try, we're going to do this quarterly. So we're going to pick different topics. I think probably going forward, what there'll be is we'll send out a list of possible topics, and then people can, vote maybe. I think is probably the best way to do it on what, the most pertinent thing is to cover. And so we'll do them just like this, just a Zoom quarterly training where we'll, half hour, 45 minutes, just say, here's what we're covering, and similar format, open to discussion, all that good stuff. So thank you all for coming. All righty. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.